Universe podcast. So much universe, so little time.
Listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. I'm Chris. I was due to be joined by Clem, but I confused the time difference. There's 1 hour time difference between Germany and the UK, and I got it confused. But I'm very happy to be joined by Mr. Ronnie Renton. Ronnie, how are you, kind sir?
Very well, Chris. Very well. How are you?
I'm very well.
Coming from your travails at the Clash of Kings?
Yeah, getting there. I think we'd both be better had we not spent 30 minutes trying to troubleshoot the technology to get this recording. So, dear listener, we've got a workaround. I hope it doesn't sound too terrible. But Ronnie, there's nothing worse when you're trying to get excited about it and positive about recording a podcast, and then you get technical issues, and you're like, oh, for God's sake, let's just get this over and done with. It doesn't exactly put you in the right frame of mind. But I'm so happy.
Joyous to talk about Kings of War.
Yes, absolutely, Ronnie, absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us. So, I mean, it was interesting actually. Recently on the podcast, we had a few questions recently of, is 2025 a disappointing year for Kings of War? And I was a little bit surprised to have those questions. And I think we can safely say it's not been a disappointing year for Kings of War. Yes, perhaps that's a good way to lead into it. So, Ronnie, we've just had some huge announcements. Obviously, the Zerkali Empire are coming out. The models look stunning. We've had lots of rules teasers, and it all just sort of makes sense, really. It seems like you're just trying to refine the game we all know and love.
Yes, evolution, not revolution. It's very hard for us to say something when, and it's also equally, I'd say nothing, but sometimes something is worse than nothing. And I think that's why towards the end of the year, the narrative was, has this been a disappointing year? Because what can we say? We know that when we first say there's a new edition coming out, the questions are going to be relentless, detailed, and quite rightly, people love Kings of War. It's their passion, it's their hobby, they do it in their free time. And the first thing they don't want, and I think some of the people that are with us were scarred from events in 2015 where their game wasn't evolved, it was destroyed. And I think people want that reassurance that's not going to be the case. But, of course, if you ask me, of course we're not going to destroy it. But you go, yeah, but what do you mean? So we had to have 3 or 4 months where we just went away and said, okay, look, here's Champions, we'll talk about that. We had Epic, we were talking about that. There's Halo, we were talking about that. We were talking about all those other things because we literally could say nothing about Kings of War because we knew that when we started saying something, we had to say everything.
Yes, completely agree with you. Yes, and if you say a little bit, you're going to make things worse. You're going to leave questions in people's mind, and people will have more questions, not less questions.
And and then you start thinking, well, start looking at the things. So we had to prepare, work. Everybody's been working 24/7 for the last 9 months because we've had such a busy year. Halo, which we expected to be big, has blown up, particularly US, particularly Oz, is going completely bananas. Then we were working on Epic, which we knew was going to be a big project. We pretty much done quite a lot of the work on the first 4 armies. We got excited in the Kickstarter, added 4 more. Probably not our wisest ever move, but there we were enthusiastic. The game was like the rest of us. And if you could have, how can 8 armies not be 8 times better than 4?
You got carried away, it's fair to say, but you would have had a lot of questions saying, "What about my army?" Which is fair enough.
Yeah, correct. I mean, and I do believe that I think 4 is kind of a minimum for a sustainable system.
Sure.
And when you start hitting 8, you are getting a lot of then good different flavours of army. You've got your dwarves, they're going to be solid, they're going to be heavy hitting, they're going to be slow. You've got your humans that'll sit around the middle. You've got your Asterians, they're going to be fast, they're going to, be laser-like, but fragile. Marauders, nameless. You start getting flavours into the army.
Yeah,
and that's what we were enjoying doing.
You need enough for people to go, that's cool, that's my army, or that's my play style, or whatever, without completely overwhelming yourself.
Correct. And also without each one being... what was difficult is... I remember we had the super heavies in during the campaign, because actually we realised they were really keen, and I think Matt had a moment of epiphany during it, go, yeah, okay... Everyone told me it was all about super heavies, but now I can see why. And then when you had full more, the danger is you just had a subset of Army B becomes Army E.
Yes. Yes.
Your first four A, B, C, D, and then you get D1.
Start to become too similar, or what's the? I often think that with a game, if you add a new army, like for example, you added Night Stalkers to Firefight, I thought that was the perfect example of a good addition to a game where the new army is adding something that wasn't otherwise there. It's a different play style. Even if you compare it to the Plague, which is also a kind of fighty melee army, or can be, those two armies, the Night Stalkers and the Plague, they play very differently, and aesthetically, of course, they're completely different. So adding the Night Stalkers, I thought, was an incredibly smart move. Okay, Ronnie, so we're talking about Epic now. So my stuff arrived about 4 days ago, and the little tiny models look like a lot of fun. So as you say, we've got 8 factions for the game. They're super heavies. Can we assume, is this going to be like Armada, where stuff releases and then you've got your game, have fun with it, and we'll drip a few things, give a few supplements, or are we expecting a longer tail of releases for Epic?
I think to retail now, there's only 4 armies out. So, the backers have had access to everything. And that would normally be, normally with a release we'd go 2. 3 months later we'd go another 1. And then we drop 1 every 12 months, every 3 months. So, the backers have had access to everything in the cupboard. And the current plan is 4 now, 2 in a couple of months, 2 in a couple of months. It might be 4 and 4, so that retail can have time to digest. Because we're all like, and what's next? And everyone else is, and what's this? So,
right.
Firstly, what it is that is Epic in this game. It does that. We're going to explain that. That's obviously landing now with the slight delays, and the tariff joys this year means that we're now, that's actually slightly alongside Kings of War, so we're going to have a kind of longer, slower peak for both. And then we are going to put new releases out from the schedule for April next year, where we're going to revisit all of the armies, but now revisiting all armies is 8, not 4, and add something new. What do we think will make that more flavoursome? How do we, how can we keep it exciting? And remember, like we were talking about with the Night Stalkers, when you do a good army add-on, and we'll circumvent back to Kings of War in a second, when you do a good army add-on, gives all of the existing players something new to fight against, and those that fancy a new army because they've played theirs for a while, something new to try out with. And so the good army release isn't just the aesthetics and the joy and the IP, it also makes the game fresh and new for everybody.
Absolutely.
Because essentially, War Games is about solving puzzles, and the puzzle is, how do I beat the living crap out of the person opposite me and give them a damn good pummeling with my army? And I know how to use mine, but I've never met this one before.
Absolutely.
That's the joy of a tournament, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. To me, that's one of the joys of Clash of Kings, of coming against armies I've never actually played before. Absolutely, Ronnie.
You've never played armies, you don't play that play style, you don't play that person. And so, when you're in a gaming club, there's 4 of you, there's 8 of you, and you kind of, I know you've got Dwarf Army and you've got your elves. So, after a while, we've played that game a bit. And that's why, each year you get, I'm going to try it. Trident Realm Army. I'm going to try Night Stalker. Let's try Firefight. Because, essentially, we enjoy both the painting, the getting it ready, getting for an event, the gaming of it, and they said the whole thing needs to keep staying fresh. And
absolutely,
one of the best ways you can do, if you've got a Xbox 360, you can show my age there, whatever the Xbox, X, whatever. You want to buy your console once every 10 years. you want to buy new games every 3 months. And I think that's a similar analogy with our and then we can circle back to Kings of War. And we've booted three consoles out almost in the last 12 months with Halo, and with Epic Warpath, and with Kings of War now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we've got some big hard resets. Now that's hard, but we've been working on it for 2 years, been working on Halo for 2 years, and working on Kings of War forever. So we're at that point, and I think what we're trying to do with the Zicani is add both. You're all going to go. I think the most fun is when you dig your army out, and I've literally been doing this with my dwarves. I've blown the dust off them, and I've been getting new ones out for a playtest against Alessio, and how does the army list work, and they kind of give it to me. I'm the idiot tester. I'm the one that goes, and if Ronnie can work it out, then real players can. And, I picked my 1,500 points, and I got it all sorted out, all done. And it's great fun, because suddenly, they fight a bit differently. They're a bit different. I'm going to use that.
Absolutely.
And I'm fighting an army that's just ever so slightly. Is it still Kings of War? Yeah. Do I still move? Do I still shoot? Do I still do those things? Yes. But there's things that I think, in every case, are better. But they're certainly slightly different. And what that certainly means is I'm fighting Alessio's old 20-year-old, not 20, but 15-year-old undead army that he built when we first built the game.
Let's come back, Ronnie. Let's come back to Kings of War. So we talked about epics. That's very exciting. So it's early days. The Kickstarters have got 8 armies. Retail are going to get 4. So we're in very, very early days of sort of building that community. That's really interesting.
And we're going to go and talk to the STL crowd, by the way. I think
fantastic.
With this one, we're going to go out and go and say, right, come on, you STL guys, you're looking for a home. Come and join us. Come and play Epic Warpath. It's a grognard game. The quality's brilliant. You guys don't buy miniatures anymore. You're not going to get down to your money. And if you want to buy the plastics, they're pretty reasonable, and they'll all be there. And I think, like in the campaign, you can pin your extras.
You've really been helped, Ronnie, as well, I think there was a lot of excitement by GW players for their new epic scale game, but I think they set it in the 30k, not the 40k universe, and I think that's a somewhat limited appeal. So I think that, to be honest, that probably helps Mantic, because if you want to play your Tyranids or your elves but you can't because it's 30k, not 40k. Well, maybe come and try Epic Warpath. You've got, if you want to be your Tyranids, well, we've got something pretty similar. If you want to play Gribbly monsters.
Okay.
And Super Ronnie.
I think, we've got cool stuff. I think the 8 factions, I don't know the details of theirs. I know it was a marine on marine kind of vibe. Exactly. We're always about 8 flavoursome, unique factions.
Absolutely.
And that's been building since 10, 12 years now. The Warpath universe has started to get some heritage and some of its own unique flavour.
Absolutely.
I think Kings of War's a lot further along, but it's really getting its own unique. The Forge Fathers, the Asterians are Mantic's versions of those tropes, and increasingly characterful.
Absolutely right.
So sort of, and I think that's also, coming back to Kings of War, being reflected. One of the first launch armies is going to be an STL army. You'll be able to buy it on the vault. You'll be able to go along and print it and come and play Kings of War and turn up to a tournament with that army and have a chance to win the Rum and the Void Siren, the Mind Screech plushes, because it's an official Mantic army.
And all the rest of it. Fantastic.
And we're just, there's a lot of people out there who are seasoned veteran gamers whose part of their hobby now is printing. I think, I think for me, that's my idea of hell. I just want to buy some plastics and clip it, or some Unicool, and I want to buy it and build it and play it. But I think some people really, really, really enjoy the printing of it. I think it's part of their hobby now, and I think we want to embrace them. Mantic's always been very community-led and open-minded about how we grow our audience and how people can participate. And I think this is just the new frontier.
As the industry evolves, you've got to move with that, haven't you? But it is interesting. Hey, Ronnie, let's move on to talk briefly about Halo. So, I mean, I think I read somewhere that Halo was the 4th best-selling game in the US. I'm going to say it was something that it was something like that, which was.
Fourth best-selling miniatures game in the US in Q1 of this year.
Wow.
And we've had some big releases since then, so we're really hoping, the Americans just love it. It's fast, it's quick, they know the IP, they love Master Chief, they love Halo. I think the IP gets them there, which I think is different than, say, the UK. I think it's the same in Oz. The IP gets them there, they played this game, and they want to have a go. And hey, I've never played a tabletop big game before, or I've never been able to quite get on top of a big miniatures game. But I quite like the idea of them. I've played X-Wing. I want to go one step further. I've played WizKids. Those games. I want to go one step further. But I think the game keeps them there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if the game wasn't as great as it is, you wouldn't keep the people, would you? They might, buy some of the models, and that would be the end of it. And I mean, I'm not sure if you can talk about it, Ronnie, but I'm assuming we can assume support for the game is going to go into the futures. Obviously, there's licenses in place and that we're not aware of, but I think it's safe to say that this has worked very well for you and presumably very well for Microsoft as well. What was the first point, Ronnie? You really thought, wow, we're really onto something. This is sort of the perfect storm of this is really going to be successcul.
I think we put the video out in March last year alongside Adepticon running into what I call the War Game season. Adepticon and Salute, and we got 55,000 views in 10 days, and I rose up to 65,000 views. I thought, we've not had 65,000. Yeah. And that was, it wasn't the Microsoft kind of like, hey, here's a lot of people that are just coming along to see what it is. This was the wargaming industry having a look at it and assessing it and evaluating it. And then when we put it up for pre-order, we were seeing numbers that were exciting.
Yeah.
That said, they're a very big company. They've got a very big license. They're very protective of it. I obviously be like, I'm going to do this, and isn't it? But you've got to pace that and make sure that we can walk at the rate they're going to let us go at. But jumping forward, I think they could see our passion for the game, for the quality, and for being a bit cutting edge. The terrain that's just in the box, new things, all this, and then it kept evolving with the Banished, and then now with ODST. So they seem very happy with us. It's something that from day one looked like it could be big, but we didn't know how big. And the difference is with a Kickstarter, by the way, but after 30 days it's closed and your retailers aren't participating in it. And there's always a sense of, I didn't back the Kickstarter and I've somehow missed out. So some games, they come out and they do well on Kickstarter, but they never get any traction. They're a thing of the moment. And I never wanted that to be the case.
Yes.
With any of our games, I want Kickstarter to be.
I think it's fair to say you've learned from the past, Ronnie. I think it's fair to say.
Systems that anyone else has even invented.
I think the moment. Sorry to interrupt you, Ronnie. I think the moment I knew it was going to be a massive hit was when I read an article on Polygon, which is a huge video games website, and they were just casually talking about Mantic games but it's a testament to the quality of the product you've put out there. It's everything someone would like that loves Halo. But if they want to treat it as a board game, they can. They have everything they need in the box. They don't even need to paint models. But if they want to get into the hobby, they can, but they don't have to. So, you can buy that box and have a brilliant time for a very fair price. And it's not an overwhelming amount of models. I think sometimes as experienced gamers, we want all the toys all the time. And we forget that actually for some people, that's off-putting.
Starter set.
Yeah.
You've got our epic 2-player starter set. That's that's a Grognard's product for a Grognard player.
I've immediately got 3 armies for that's not a bad start for Epic. Yeah, without thinking about it.
I will do all right.
Because I wanted 3, Ronnie. That's it. Well, I want the Forge Fathers. That's a no-brainer. And then who doesn't want Nameless? So that's. I mean, it's fair to say, Ronnie. I think you've got the next couple of years lined up for Halo. I would guess. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's looking good. We've got ADST just dropping singles for those coming out early in the new year, and looking to add to the UNSC faction and complete out the Banished.
Ronnie, can I just
and then?
Oh, sorry. Carry on. Sorry, don't let me interrupt you.
No, I was going to say no, and then it really gets exciting. ...
And Ronnie, if I can briefly mention, I mean, you've got so much going on, it's incredible to be quite honest. Dreadball All-Stars. Now, I know behind the scenes, I know a very famous person wrote that game. Are you in a position to announce who wrote the game, or is that not something you're ready to divulge?
Sure. It was something that if we got Epic away early, we might have been able to just roll into this one pre all of this. But the truth is, we've got so much on with Epic, Halo, and Kingdom War right now that I just don't want it to get drowned out.
Yes.
It's too big a story. It's too much magnificent product. So it's probably going to be something we'll announce running into Christmas once people have got their King's War books in their hands and they can think about something else and run a campaign in Feb. So but we went out and used that Halo money to recruit the very best person I think we possibly could to head it up from a design point of view. And I think he's obviously a legend in the industry, and we wanted to just give him free rein. So like I said it early on, it's not Dreadball, it's Dreadball All-Stars. It's the game, the named heroes. This is that team. These are who they are. Come and play. Experience the fun of Dreadball, but on steroids, on Saturday night, under the spotlights. Here we go. So watch your space. I'll happily jump back on, and when we're closer, but sometime around December, I think we'll be talking about that. We've got time and some opportunity to give it the breathing space it deserves, because it's one of our favourite IPs. I think it's probably the one that's most suitable to be made into a computer game. And I want to have both Dreadball and Dreadball All-Stars, and this is the time for Dreadball All-Stars. So again, you almost can't say anything until you're ready to say everything. There are some huge Dreadball fans out there, and we need to be able to bring them on this journey with us. And we had plenty of them in a room recently, playtesting whether they enjoyed it, and they did, very, very much so. And there was great feedback from them, and from that we've now been able to start, expanding out and really putting it into the full development phase. I'm sure you'll do this, Ronnie, but what I'm really hoping is that you'll have a box set in a way similar to Halo, where it'll just be everything 2 players need to play for a reasonable price. And if they want to treat it like a board game, they can treat it like a board game. So, maybe there are retailers who picked up Halo, the Halo box set, and maybe they'd be willing to have the Dreadball box set on there. Maybe they'll take a punt on that as well, So, it doesn't necessarily have to be hardcore war gamers like us. Perfect. And speaking of legendary game designers, Ronnie, you're sort of, that's a good segue into, maybe we can swing back to talking about Kings of War. So, Ronnie, when did initial planning, how long have you had the idea of 4th edition in your mind? When did sort of the early planning start? Did it start back as far as 3rd edition? When we started about 4? Well, the day after we released 3rd.
Yeah.
But when's it going to happen? When we start planning 4, we'll start planning then. But we don't really start. There's 2 things. If you remember, we launched the 3rd edition 2019.
That's what brought me into Mantic, really. I'd played The Walking Dead before, but it was Kings of War 3rd edition was, to me, that was the first time I thought, okay, this is really serious now. This is something I want to be a part of. So that's what drew me in.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, and you and many others, and it was a good time because we kind of, with 2nd edition, I think we brought the Lost and the Lonely, those that had been dumped for a round-based game. And so we had a hardcore that started with us and they were locked away in the corner, and people were like, "You're lunatics." Second wave, we got a whole load of people that already had existing rank and flank armies that needed a home for them. And by third, we started to get people now going, "Okay, come on, this looks serious. You've got some decent plastic, you've got decent rules, the community scene here. I'll have a look at that." And just as we were about to go on the kind of biggest explosive growth of our Kings of War game in 2020, a little COVID virus came along, and we ended up having no gaming that year. Everyone stayed at home and painted, but not so many tournaments, not so many big events and what have you. And interestingly, that disrupted 2020 and 2021. Now, what was bizarre is our sales were good because people finally, you know what, I'm going to buy that halfling army and I'm going to paint it and I'm going to get it ready. And I think all of us did do that kind of hobby stuff that we've been meaning to do. As I said at the end of that lockdown, if you haven't done your hobby project now, you're probably not going to. Because you're never going to have more time at home to actually get done. What it meant is in 2022 when the tournament started, boom. Oh my goodness, did the tournament scene come back, and did it come back strong? Because what people wanted to do was go and drink beers with their mates and roll some dice and move some soldiers around. And so just as the tournament scene went crazy, our sales actually dipped. We had a pretty tough 23, 24, because everyone was like, the last thing I want to do is spend any time at home painting toy soldiers.
People were too busy playing. Yeah, having a great time with them.
Great. Getting out there and going on holiday and doing all those things we hadn't done for 2 years. So both from a hobby perspective, but from a personal perspective, people had quite enough of being at home painting soldiers or watching Netflix series. So people were out, they were playing, and suddenly we had that huge Thatcher King's book, which was a big balancer because we had a year of gaming data, and we could look at all that and we could update it. So it was a funny addition, and then it was so big that we ended up doing the 3.5 because we didn't evolve it, we didn't get a 2020 a book. So we always call it the year forward, but so the 2021 book, so the 2022 book would come out at the end of 2021. So we launched in 19. We didn't really have a book. We had Helpers Rift, which was where we played with the IP, and that's why the Zikali are invading. The Helpers Rift book was part of the IP build that we could do, but we didn't have the other half of the data. We couldn't quite evolve the balances and what were the obvious checks and what had been spammed. And, with any addition, you just want to get most of it right. And then that first book is quite important. That was at the end of 2021, 2022, really. So by 23, I said, look, I don't think people have had their run of this game yet. But we've got quite a lot of changes. They would have evolved. They were actually, so let's just do the 3.5. Actually, again, that just restored it, allowed new players a jumping on point. But some of the tweaks that fixed the thing ended up being it was becoming increasingly less new beginner friendly. And you could turn up and get an absolute tabling from a good player, and you're thinking, I'm not sure I enjoyed that. And so those are the things when I really start going, okay, look, I'm seeing armies now with 5 dragons and 3 dragons and 5 chariots. I don't like that. That's not what Kings of War is. Kings of War is a rank and flank.
I agree with you. Balanced armies. Yeah. And you want your fun, but I've always said that's the spice, that's the punch, that's the not the core of your army. And so that's one thing that I watch for. But at the same time, Track of Kings is going from 60 to 200 people because the veteran direction. So there was a couple of things. There's the first that the tournament competitive team was in great shape. Didn't want to upset them. Wanted to involve it. Wanted to make sure they came on this journey with us. You've invested a lot of time and effort and money in the armies you've got. So let's make sure we don't do anything to upset those, but let's make sure we have a strong reset that both evolves it for them, but also reopens it to people jumping on board. If we are bigger, we will have people that played Halo and are going to go, what else can Mantic do? And I literally was having a conversation in our corridor with a dad who played G-Dub way back in the day,
stopped, as we all do in our 20s, because we don't have enough time or money, and we've got young children, and God damn it, can I just get some sleep? Came back to when his kid's 10, 11, and just discovers Halo, and he's gone to, oh my God, yeah, I can now do my hobby with my kid, because the fun there is spending time with your kid and painting toy soldiers.
Absolutely.
But in a manageable way. The rules were the same. And then he's gone full, Mantic. He's gone, okay, right, I play Kings of War, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, it's a Pathfinder now. But it's really interesting, because it's that kind of journey that I think, having gone through it myself, like I say, you can't have played Warhammer for longer than I have. So I'm now at the stage where the game I want to play are Dungeon Saga. I want to play Halo. I want to play Kings of War. I want to pick a rule book up on a Tuesday night, go down, roll some dice, have some fun. But as I'm saying, I'd rather play. I don't play to lose, but I'd rather lose and have fun than win and be miserable.
Oh, I can't agree with you more, Ronnie. It's whether I win or lose a game is not the reason. That isn't the metric of did I have a good time. It's did I have a good time with another person, and did we laugh our heads off? Did I lose in hilarious fashion? It doesn't matter to me in the slightest whether I won a game of toy soldiers. That doesn't make our lives any better. It's the fun. It's the fun.
You're a better human being than I am, Chris. I'll hold for 5 minutes, but then on reflection, I'll go, it's fun.
Yeah, fair enough.
All those double one power, all those 8s, and I think it's that I want to try and create. Dad's having fun with their kids, Mum's having fun with their kids, gaming, painting, enjoying this hobby, making it affordable, making it reasonable. So that was kind of, it was clearly time. By Clash of Kings last year, there was a few horrific armies this year. There wasn't so many last year, but I kind of felt, knowing how long it takes from me pulling the trigger, saying let's do this, to us doing it. We've got the things we were thinking about. We were obviously working with Alessio by this point. We picked up River Horse, so I was like, let's get on with it.
So Ronnie, this is my next question: is how important was it Alessio coming back? I mean, it seems sort of a little bit serendipitous, but how important was it that Alessio was back at the helm for 4th edition?
It made what might have been a difficult decision very, very easy. Because what we wanted, Kings of War has always been by the community for the community kind of thing, but before that it was me and Alessio saying, we don't ever think Rank and Flank has got the game it ought to get. It never got a full reset. It never got the benefit of a guy who's been writing rules for 20 years. In 1996, 40k got a full and total reset. It was nothing like the previous edition. All the codexes came off, everything went in the bin. I remember going and playing at Rick's house, and he showed me this, the 6 inches, the charge, and everything, total reset. I never got that. When I was running the studio, we were allowed to add 1 rank to go from ranks of 4 frontage to 5. That was a major, that's the level of tweaking that was allowed to that game. So I just thought, A, fantasy was my first love. B, I understood it, I've been playing it all my life. Right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make a game that's much faster, much slicker, much better. I went to Alessio, who'd written games for 20 years by then and was a professional. And he wrote it. And he wrote it, and he painted it the way we went. And then to keep it balanced, to keep it evolving, to keep it fresh, we had our rules committees and they'd dip in. And on the 2nd edition, I had Alessio on one side as the game designer. And game designers design the games the way they think people should play. And then people play it the way it's written and how they want to play it. And that's why a rules committee and a games designer is a great dynamic, because one, there's also what we're trying to create here. Fast, slick, fun, breaking line. Magic and heroes are spice, not core. It's not hero hammer. It's a balanced game where it's almost a historical take on fantasy. Great. And those guys go, that's too powerful, that doesn't work. Okay, great, let's just work that out. I think 3rd edition we probably went into the community owning it in a more deep way. We didn't have a games designer per se. Matt was in there running it. Matt's a huge player, and Fannin was chairman of the rules committee in 2nd edition. When we came to 4th, I wanted to come and look at where we've got to. What are we missing from a legend of the industry, a guy who's done this many, many times. And of course, he has a deep, deep love for Kings of War because that was his fantasy rank and flank game. That was the one that he never got to write. And in many ways, I feel like it's an evolution. And the irony of then the whole world dying around 3rd edition or whenever it was 2nd edition, I think gave just as an opportunity to show our game to people. If they hadn't liked it, I don't think they'd have stayed. I don't think the Mark Coxes and the Steve Hildreds of this world, Matt Rogers would be with us 10 years later if they hadn't liked what they saw. If they hadn't gone, my God, this is a bloody great game in SEO. So it just allowed us to kind of just take a reset. SEO was at Clash of Kings last year and understood how important it was to be respectful of those players, but similarly mindful that there might be something that we wanted to be very clear about the starting point, and then having champions actually even more of a lead into that. The world being better, the plastics being where they are, it really does feel like there's an opportunity here for us now to become, the gaming company on a global scale we want to be.
Yes, I wanted to touch on that a little bit later, actually. Absolutely, Ronnie. Could you tell us a little bit? So it seems with the new book that's coming out, so there's the hardback rule book, but there's also the law book coming out. And apologies, I forget what it's called. It's called Vengeance or something, but it's book 1. Invasion. Thank you very much. Invasion. Ronnie, could you just explain to us a little bit what this book is? It's got the law for 4 factions in it, I believe, and the army list too. But it says to me that there's going to be a slight change in your release schedule. Does this mean no more Clash of Kings every year? Perhaps you could explain to the listener a little bit around this.
Yeah, it exactly means that. What we found with Clash of Kings was if we weren't careful, we ended up writing rules to justify a book. We would be like, okay, how can we change the game again now? So the people come out and buy a new command dice, divisive. Obviously, as you've seen in 4th, they are massive. Every single roll has a command dice with it. It's going to be big to go with the D8s. That was a joke, by the way. Yes. I wasn't sure whether I should comment. That was a joke, dear listener. Silence. I've already been saying that Kings of War should move to D8. So it's a tongue-in-cheek trolling. Sorry, Ronnie, carry on. Yeah, very good. Right, so we found we were writing, and then let's know more about your IP and everything else, and then right, get a book, devour it, done. It is a narrative-led series of books, and where the story is leading, it's going to look at deep dive into that part of Banithal. And over the course of these 6 books, we're going to be teasing out a major revamp. So Twilight Kin, Halflings, they were, I think, the huge standouts. Night Stalkers were big things in 4th edition Northern Alliance. Beautiful models, great story, but actually, who do they live, where do they live, how does it happen? Where do I get that information from? Where does that live? They kind of know, but actually it was model-led, army-led. Great, and Kings of War is going to be a militaristic fantasy IP. But why don't I want to tell you, like, the Zikali are invading, they're coming to take all the magic uses away. They don't believe that the rest of us can be trusted with magic.
And fair enough, to be quite honest. I don't blame them.
Yeah, they're probably not wrong. They're probably not wrong. And it was Helpers Rift. Aren't
they also going to take everyone's mirrors away from them, just in case, just to be sure? Smash every mirror.
Yes, look into this clip. Clip, slash, yes, you might say that, I could possibly call it. They're coming, and there's a million of them. There's a million. They are coming from the east, and there is so many. This whole, oh my God, we've been scrapping over here about this stuff. Look at that. And there's 3 claws. That's 3 claws, and one of them's going to smash in and get straight away, all the way to the Shire, and they're going to have to just slow down and stop them. And you've got the Trident Realm, because they're coming in from the sea, and the Salamanders. And so what we're going to do is talk about the invasion. we're going to talk about the Zikali, we're going to talk about the Halflings, we're going to talk about Salamanders, we're going to talk about the Strident Realms. We're going to put some new plastics out. But instead of it being army-led, rules-led, it's going to be, here's the narrative, they're going to get this far. And one of the things I'm talking about with Matt now is going, right, now we're going to name who runs the North Claw, the South Claw, the Sea Claw, who's the Dwarf King, who's going to be fighting. Which armies does he have at his disposal? Who's running those armies? Which Basilean legions are deployed, and where are they, and who's running them?
And so, dear listener, I can speak to my local Halfling player and my local Basilean player, and we can enjoy this on the tabletop and feel part of it.
Correct. And that whole living world that I've been talking about making, we're able to now make. And I'm going to say, look, here's the big narrative, here's the sweeping narrative, here's what's going on here, but here's who. Here's the hero. And boom, this actually, that army gets there and he wipes that whole, imagine if we've been reading for years about Garrick, the dwarf hero that we've had since, journal number 1. And he's defending and he's standing on these mountains. The Zikali Empire comes and it flattens him. Wipes his army out. He's got the 9th Dwarf Heavy Infantry Legion army, and dead to a man. After 15, we'll be like, oh, what?
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's really exciting. And you can always play historical battles involving Garrick that, he died at some point, but
wave plastics.
Yeah.
We're now getting to retiring out all plastics. The new dwarfs are going to look different than the old dwarfs. The new elves are going to look different than the old elves. They're going to be evolutions, not revolutions, but they're going to be better. There's no two ways about that. Our sculpting's better, our budget's better. But we can go back and play the Battle of the 17 Armies. So how we can really start building our world. And so what these books are, I give you a little invasion, fracture, arrogance, what that one is, ruination, alliance, and death. And so there's this huge story arc. We're able to explore this, and then the armies are part of it. And let me just give you an example about the Zikali. Okay, so Kyle P, was the creative director on this project, on that army. And I often do that. People are passionate about it. I said, right, you take and be in charge of this one. And actually, Dave and Matt will deliver your vision of it. Twilight King's a bit me. There's a few bit more collaboration. Dwarf's going to be mine. It's not my company if I don't know the toys I want. And he had this vision of these noble and honourable kind of traits that were going to run through their army, and that they treat their slaves with respect, and they're only taking the magic away because you can't be trusted with it. We're going to have to come. You can't have anything nice because you break it.
Ronnie, I'll just jump in there. I really like as well that they're not necessarily bad guys. I think there's obviously a place for the abyss is opening up, demons are spreading over the world, or the Night Stalkers are breaking through into our dimension. Yeah, there's obviously a place for that, but I don't want an evil outside force every single time. I want an invasion of actually pretty reasonable people going, you guys can't be trusted with this power, so we're going to come and take it off of you. I think that's really, it creates interesting stories.
Who was muted enough? Yeah. So Albus Rift was muted enough that be all right. They haven't got rid. Oh Christ! Okay, it's time. So you're starting to now see in this whole period. You're going to start seeing the big dogs coming back. They're going to be back. The person who's been asleep under chill is going to wake up. This power, the power is the rift. The rift, Albus Rift, was the start of this whole narrative. But what we want to do is, this is what's happening. And this is the armies that are being deployed to fight about it. This is the battle we're having. So, let me give you an example. And this is what's in the books, which we've never been able to do before. Lots of, so that's been writing some short stories. I think this is either in the book, I think it's in the book, this one, but dwarf rangers are out, and they can hear this thing, and they are going to go and see how big the army is and report back. What's the threat here, guys? Because the dwarfs are in the mountains in their holds and they're one of the front lines. And the whole regiment of the whole company of scouts gets caught. Dwarf Ranger, they get caught, and the captain is sat in the prison with his troops. And one by one, you can see them being taken away by the Zikali. They're allowed to pick one item. They're given an hour. Off you go. And you can see one by one, none of them are coming back. And he's thinking, someone comes in, and these guys are, and he's there to go, wow, these are going to understand. They're going to be fast as heck. Look at the size of them. Look at my legs. Look at their legs. So anyway, they know he's the officer. He's the last one out. So okay, here's your chances. So right, I'm going to film super light. What I'm going to take is my crossbow, a couple of bolts. I'm going to leg it. But they're going to hunt me down, so I need to think about that. So he runs, actually gets into position, and sets a trap. Sets his crossbow up, puts a trap on it, thinks at least if I can just peg that one. Zikali comes running, instantly catches him, runs him down, and then he's running away. Zikali spots there's a trap, starts looking for the trap. As it does that, he jumps on him, knocks him to the ground, draws blood. Zikali turned around to him and says, "You're free to go." What? Well, this was an honour race. And if you drew blood on us, we get to take it. We have with honour.
I was getting little bits of Predator vibes there, Ronnie. Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's them, and that's what Kyle always wanted for them, to be noble, to be a arrogant slightly, but knows better. Race that's coming here to simply stop you idiots from breaking everything.
So, Ronnie, how different do we think they are to the Basileans? Because I think of the Basileans as being arrogant, but the Zircali sounds sort of like less of a jerk than the Basileans. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think everyone wants the Basileans to be good. So we're going to make the Basileans good. They are a force of good. They're going to be noble. I think they're more... it's more to do with honour, and in search of honour, anything goes.
Right.
I think, the bad trait of Basileans is probably pride.
Yes.
But at the same time, they are trying to make the world a good place.
And Ronnie, am I right in thinking the whole good, evil, neutral thing is gone for 4th edition?
I don't know yet. If you're asking a rules point of view, I don't know is the answer. In terms of aligning the world, no, very much not. I mean, it was always aligned around 3 edges, which is good.
No, I know you've explained this to me so many times. I think one of the reasons I don't like it is, for example, Basileans and Goblins, or Basileans and Goblins, Night Stalkers and Goblins, or Night Stalkers and Undead. To me, they're not on the same side, if that makes sense. They wouldn't be, because I always think of the 3 sides, they'd be allies.
And that's why, as an ally thing, I think they just got rid of allies. There's a big army.
Yes.
There's enough playing, but in any given army, if you want to play Basileans, play Basileans. And it was being used, I think, to be slightly gamey.
Totally. But if you want to play in your basement with your friends...
My claims about how the world is going to work, and so when we start exploring nature, their drivers are not the same as good and evil. What's going to get them cross? Well, they can see the abyss is trying to take over.
Yeah.
They can see that the interdimensional void, the rift that's coming through from the Night Stalkers, is not what they want. They want harmony and they want balance.
Or the Basileans have built a massive dam and they've destroyed the nature of the valley, and so they also...
That can piss them off just as much. Interestingly, their driver... And so that's why it goes, where do you derive your power from and what's your driver? So I think as a gaming piece, I think that's gone, and if it has, great. Because I think what we want to say is if you want to play Basileans, play Basileans. If you want to play Goblins, play Goblins. If you want to play Night Stalkers, play Night Stalkers. And don't play Night Stalkers and then have one unit of Goblins because your Night Stalker army doesn't have that unit, because we probably designed it that way. Now, I think one of the book titles is Alliance. And so can I see that, the dwarfs, we don't really like the elves. But
no one likes the elves. Elves don't even like the elves, as far as I'm aware.
Right. Exactly. Would they see that, or even, could nature see that the threat of the Zikali or the Abyss is so great that alliances can be made? Yes. but it's alliances in the IP sense of the word, not in a gamifying the game sense of the word.
Yes, understood. Yes, fantastic.
So I think that's a better way of understanding it. And I think what I wanted early on was, the dwarves can fight with the elf, they definitely can't fight with the goblins. They definitely can't fight with the orcs because the dwarves don't fight. Okay, when we're actually, it doesn't need it in the game anymore. You don't need to combine armies. We've got enough batties, we've got enough resin. That if you want to build a Battalion army, you can get it. It's going to look fantastic. And the Zikali army, like Twilight Kin, Reforged Orcs. We were scraping around for all of these a while ago. We were having to compromise and push things together. That's no longer the case. So build your army you like. When you built it, if you want to have a 10,000 point battle, build something that kind of makes sense going next to it. If you want to...
Yeah, if you want to play in your basement, by all means play allies. If you and your friend are really into it, there's absolutely no reason not to do that. It's just for tournaments, please don't just bring Glade Stalkers and Ice Elementals or something.
When we're going to move the world narrative on, there isn't 20 story arcs.
Right.
It's a different thing. What we can have, obviously, the first place we're going to be is, how are we going to stop the Zikali? Now, all of a sudden, there's an awful lot of races that are going to be quite keen that they don't get absolutely steamrolled by this million-strong Zikali army.
It reminds me...
Suddenly...
Sorry to interrupt, Ronnie. It's a little bit like when the Greek city-states were at each other's throats, and then every now and again they get invaded by their massive neighbour, and then they'd have to create unnatural alliances, or, yes, uneasy alliances.
Yeah, Athens and Sparta. Thermopylae.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly that. I was literally thinking the numbers are Xerxes and his million men. That is the kind of world threat that Banithor's facing. Zikali is, and at that time, the world was the Greek Empire and its city-states, and they're fighting, very rich, very powerful, very big enemy.
Fantastic.
So I think there's some flavour. I hope that's enough to get people excited.
And Ronnie, just one other thing of note is just the fact you've planned this for the next few years. It's all, as I understand it, it's all in place, or at least the framework is in place. And this, to me, is a big change to what you've been able to do previously. Is that fair to say?
100%. We didn't have the infrastructure to do it. We weren't to manage it. It was Kickstarters and Kings of War. That was kind of our mission. And now we can do Kings of War. We can have a trade releases. We can look after the IPs we've got, and we can have another team that runs Kickstarters, like being able to go out and do the Dreadball All-Stars I was talking about. We run that as a separate project under a separate team with a full-time Kickstarter manager. He's available for recruitment right now. If anyone's interested, there's a plug. And who can manage that project? We have the creative. Sometimes we use Luigi, sometimes we use others, so that we can put together multiple projects. We've just done Assassin's Creed. Is that core to our core soldier crowd? No. But what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to open new trade portals and trade channels. It's another board game to come alongside, Umbrella Academy, Hellboy, the board game.
Hellboy was brilliant.
And we're working with yet another, AAA listed IP, which is great news for us.
And you didn't have to slow down your normal bread and butter activities to do it. You're able to do it in your stride, sort of thing.
Yeah, because we work with a guy called, this one, Caesar Inc., who we've worked on with a few games now, and it's great fun that we can bring, tier one quality IPs we love and get passionate about, to that audience, while not having to slow down the kind of things we really love, which is making massive toy soldier games.
I think what's so impressive about 4th edition, Ronnie, is that it's not just, what you're saying doesn't just make sense. Every aspect of it, including the boxes, even how much you're putting in the boxes, I think everything just looks of a higher standard than 3rd edition. I think everything just looks more professional. Everything is so tied together. Everything has been thought through, and I just get the feeling that perhaps in the past you weren't able. You're having to run so fast and build the train. You would, let's say the metaphor, you're driving a train and you're trying to build the train tracks in front of you as you're driving. So I think previously I got the feeling you didn't have the opportunity to think everything through as well you have for fourth edition.
Think about it, but we weren't able to
implement it.
We couldn't actually implement it and act it. And I think that's where we are just now, in a more confident place, in a better place. We've got better reach, and how noble that is. So, we are in a great place that hopefully allows us to continue to flourish. And, our challenges is between Halo, Epic, and Kings of War is to recruit another wave of people into our games and try Mantic for the first time.
I really think your firefights and your dead zones deserve to be. I think Firefight really deserves to be a more played game. It really deserves. It's such a great game. I wish more people would play it.
Well, and you just have to remember that there's more people playing Dead Zone now than have ever played it. It's just called Halo Dead Zone at the moment.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll bring people in.
Thousands of people.
Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing.
And that's our audience is double what it was. At the moment, that's the game they play. They came for the IP. Hopefully, they stay because they love Mantic's games, and then they love all of Mantic's games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And during the life of this edition, we can revisit Armada. All those that missed that last time round, or have joined since then, can dip in. And so we're just trying to build out all our words, and for sure next year, just finalising the release schedule. We will do something for Dead Zone and Firefight. We absolutely will, because we love it and it needs to flourish now. Obviously, last year we had the big sci-fi summer. It was great. It really worked well. New plastics mats and everything else. This year, our efforts in the sci-fi space were all about delivering Epic to our backers. But now that's obligations done, and it's going to be up and running. We can come back to Dead Zone and Firefight because we love them. We do love them. And also, I think you have to give Halo a good old run before you went to those Halo players and said, do you want to get a bit crunchy with this?
Of course you do.
Because this is good fun, and I think there's a lot of people that will.
If you just
enjoy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to go and play 40k at Adepticon, but on Friday night I'm going to play 3 games of Draft Halo. Because it's just light, good, easy fun.
The last thing you want, if you've just picked up a new game, if you've just started Halo and you've never heard of Mantic before and you're excited about it, the last thing you want is someone immediately going, oh, what about coming and buying this other game we've got? At best, it's confusing, isn't it? Fantastic, Ronnie. Hey, Ronnie. It's such an exciting time, and I think we can really feel the progression and I think Mantic is just growing, and I think you're building on your previous experience in an incredibly positive way. Is there, Ronnie, so I think two things to finish off, I think, is one, can you give a plug to the Germany Open Day, which is coming up, which I haven't seen advertised anywhere, as far as I'm aware. In November, I will be running Kings of War demos.
I'm going to try and get on a plane if I can, but I'm at Essen, so I might not get my boss to sign off on that one. 15th of November, it's down in Frankfurt way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Wiesbaden, which is just down the road from Frankfurt, yes. It's the state capital of Hessen.
So, very nice place. And I think Frank's going to be down there, who normally works with us at Essen. I think you're going to be down there with demos. Tell everyone where it is.
It's in Phantasmos Studios, painting studios, in a charming area of Wiesbaden. And I think I mentioned on the podcast, just across the road from there is a BDSM hotel. So, dear listener, if your accommodation is not set, if it's still there, it's been a while since I've been there, to be fair, but if it's, that's a consideration. If that doesn't sell you, what will?
Yeah, when we trip you up there, if you bring us a flyer to Essen, we'll happily give that out to people as well.
Fantastic.
So, if you want to knock something up, Chris, or send us just send us something and we'll print it here and bring it with us. We'll happily give that out because that'd be great fun. The other exciting things for that is at Essen there will be all the Halo releases in Germany, all the new ones. So we're going to have the Banished there, we're going to have the War Games expansion there. We're also going to have Champions in German. We're also going to have Epic in German. So if they come to our booth, it will be Champions and Epic. And if they go around the corner to Burst's booth, who's our exclusive Halo distributor in Germany, our partner there, he'll have all the Halo stuff.
That's really exciting.
Army Paints are going to be doing painted tapes. So there's going to be another big wave of recruitment. And obviously Champion's a perfect recruiter for people that are getting into Kings of War cold from nowhere. So lots of exciting things for Germany over the coming year. We're really going to look at that. And I think a friend of yours, recommended by you, Alex, who's a fluent German speaker, has been living in Germany for 10 years, is coming to be our head of noise to help recruit. So I'm sure that'll be on his radar. So very, very exciting times for Mantic in Germany and all the games that we're making.
I think you made a tiny mistake there, Ronnie, but I don't think anyone noticed. It's fine. Absolutely fine.
Yeah, they're all interchangeable these days.
I called you Robbie earlier, so we'll call it 1-1. How's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Ronnie, I so appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And lots of fascinating stuff to really dig our teeth into for the dear listener. Fantastic. Ronnie, anything just before we wrap up? Is there anything else we haven't touched on that you want to let the dear listener know?
I suppose the only thing is this time of year, I will plug our advent calendars. If you want one of those, they are arriving today. We did a little campaign earlier in the year. So this is each day of December, you open one of the doors and behind it is a piece of plastic or ice or some counters. On the 24th, you will not only have a lovely bit of furniture for your game that you normally play, your D&D collection or your sci-fi collection, some cool terrain, some cool miniatures. You can slide the rulebook out the back and you can slide the gaming mouse out the back. And on Christmas Day or Boxing Day, you can actually play a little mini game that we've created.
Very exciting.
These are getting more and more popular. We've got Deep Space Nine and Barroom Brawl. Barroom is obviously where you've got to get your Christmas party to be the best Christmas party and not get thrown out by the Goblin Bouncer. We've also this year got our licenses to agree that Worms, so you can actually play Worms. I think anyone that has got the Worms retail game, which is lots of people these days, there's a whole lot of unique Worms you don't have. So not only do you get the game that you can play, so if you've never played Worms, play it, it's great fun. But if you have got the retail game, you can actually add new Worms to your collection. So
that's exciting.
And then there's a Walking Dead one. Yeah,
yes.
So those are the fans of Walking Dead. It's a kind of horror game. Don't get dead and make sure you've got some supplies for Christmas Day.
Amazing.
So watch out for advent calendar. They go live. They've obviously got a very limited window. We pop them up now and then we'll take them down in about the 15th of November. So to make sure everyone's got them by the 1st of December. They'll be obviously on the standard to Essen as well. But yeah, if you want one of those, grab them. They're really good fun. They're a collectible series that we're starting to add out. And that's the tradition.
Can we expect a Halo one for next year? Have you been speaking to Microsoft?
Probably a bit early for Halo. I think we might get a Hellboy one for next year.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll get that then. I love, honestly, I absolutely adore your Hellboy game. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Rocks and Ladders, I think it's called.
Oh, very nice. And Ronnie, I just wanted to say again, thank you very much for letting me rent out Mantic to have an Antares tournament in March next year. Thank you very much, Ronnie.
Actually, okay. That's far nicer than I am my own.
It's a very nice thing to do.
Here's your gaming space.
I will encourage everybody to have a look at the Mantic sci-fi stuff while they're there. That's for sure.
All right, deal. Great stuff. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Ronnie.